It's time for Two Guys and a Goalie with Dustin Nielson, Matt Kassian, and the goalie, Joaquin Gage.
Welcome to another episode of Two Guys and a Goalie. Breaking news, the Oilers suck.
Oh, my God.
We didn't see this coming. Man. My goodness. Cass, I mean, we've got lots to break down. Nielson, Cass, and Gage are with you once again. Eric, the title for this will be Breaking News, Oilers Suck. We'll have that for you a little bit later on. Obviously, Two Guys and a Goalie cruising along live right here at EdmontonSportsTalk.com. You can text us anytime, 780-218-9999, 780-218-9999, or hit us up in the chat. We've already got some rolling in. Penner's Pancake says, things to blame the Oilers' losses. Demko not sick enough. Bouchard and Nurse paired up. Yeah, that was well. We've got lots to sort through. Cass, Gager, first of all, good job on postgame last night.
Thank you.
Fun postgame. Lots of
Massive
people watched.
Shoes to fill.
Turns out that postgame is going to be a pretty big deal around here, so that's good to know. Cass, but I did enjoy your text meltdowns yesterday as well. That was fun to follow along on.
Oh man. Oh yeah, I was melting down. And but before I forget, another gentleman who was melting down. You'd see him on the chat. He popped up here as Toxic Texan. Known Josh for a very, very long time from down in Texas. It was all his boys. He's got triplets. So
Oh boy,
it was their birthday. So Jacob, Joseph, and Jeremy. I was going to get a whole bunch of really embarrassing stories from your dad to talk about because I know you guys watch too. But they were at my wedding down in Texas. Just some wonderful people. So happy birthday, guys! I was also texting Josh and sort of melting down as well. So there was a lot of meltdown happening in the Kassian household. Oh man, is this the Oilers' defense without Matthias Ekholm?
yes,
because it was like the first couple of minutes in the game, guys, and this is probably what I would have talked about on the post-game show yesterday, or even left with. The first couple of minutes, I was like, oh, they look pretty good. You know, Kulak jumps into a rush, great skating speed, generates a terrific chance. Oilers looked like they were playing solid, and then the wheels completely fell off. And oh man, there's so much we can dig into. I mean, the Bouchard and Nurse pairing, they struggled. Some of the defensemen looking lost, Broberg looking lost at times out there. Like it was just ugly from a defensive side of the puck. Like the only bright spot really in that game was the McLeod line. Because I thought that line looked really good. Like I love their energy. They generated some chances. They were moving, they're fast, they're physical. So they were really good. But aside from that, it was just, oh man, that was not what I wanted or expected to see.
You know, it's funny that you mentioned the McLeod line because in the end, that line could end up being pretty important for them. Like they need to have a third line that can kind of do what the third line did last night. Now, Holloway did leave that game after blocking a shot, so we'll have to see. Jay Woodcroft's supposed to have a availability with the media at 12:15 today, so we'll try to pass along as much as we can on that. Gager, where would you say, like Cass said, there's so much to break down from this game, and my God, is it good to be doing Two Guys and a Goalie like live now with the text line and obviously the chat after an Oilers game, especially a game that went the way that it did. Cass mentioned right off the top though, Gager, like McDavid came out, played a hit, like they with a hit. Kulak looked like McDavid when he was flying down the wing there. I was like, look at this guy going for a little bit of a skate. Where did it fall off? Like what ended up happening? Where did it all go wrong last night?
Yeah, I remember watching the Kulak sitting on the couch over there with the boys and going, oh my gosh, I love Kulak. Like seeing him play in his playoff style, jumping into play. McDavid, like you said, throws the big hit. I mean, the fourth shot of the game going in, Dusty, isn't a great look. Although, just looking at Jack Campbell, I thought that was the most savable puck, I would say.
The first one?
Yeah, because he did get a good piece of it. He got a good piece of it, Cass. Like, I know it's back against the grain, but he was still with them. He was he was reaching a bit, but that's understandable. But
he's just moving, Gage. He's moving so far fast across. Like I don't blame either of the goalies for this one.
I to tell you the truth, I thought Skinner could have had one or two of those battling through screens a little bit more, but that was. I'm going to give them both a pass, of course, Cass. I'm a goalie. Of course I give them a pass. But that was the only goal, and it's a great goal. Great pass, horrible play by Kulak. All he had to do was get in the way of Garland at that point. But one of those plays where you kind of have to tip your hat to the offensive ability of the other team. And in Garland at that point, having the presence of mind to take the puck, go across the green, get it up just above the pad, still hits it, goes in.
I was wondering on that one because when I saw it, I want to say, like, should he be more aggressive going at that puck? But he was kind of ready to sort of play. He was pushing across to play it over here, right? Like, yeah.
He's pushing across too is secondary because first you have to anticipate things are going to go poorly, but Kulak's making a hard play on trying to knock that thing out of the air. So you're kind of looking, is it going to get deflected here? Then you're moving across and it's going back against the green. The fact that he even was able to touch that puck, Dusty, is amazing in itself because
that's what I thought.
Yeah.
That's but I was just giggling to myself because I was like, I love that you have to expect it's going to go poorly. Doesn't that just sum up the game yesterday?
I guess, yeah. Wow. That's
well, this message comes in from Gord on the nasty chat over here. At the end of the day, the team played poorly, but you cannot get 750 goaltending at any level and be in a game. And both guys were at 750. But I don't know. Like, from the Campbell perspective, when he got yanked, man, I wasn't putting any of that really on Jack Campbell. I thought the team played like absolute garbage in front of him last night. Is that taking it too far? Like, how do we decipher how much of it is? You hear mix in a save, make a save here, make a save there, but some pretty good opportunities that the Oilers were allowing. Like, they just didn't seem engaged.
I didn't like the pull, Dusty. I was like, what are you doing?
I was a little surprised by the pull.
I was, and at the time last night I was upset. This morning I woke up even more upset that Jack Campbell got yanked at that point of the game. I thought, you know what, let this guy battle through it. The things aren't going – it's not his fault with these goals. He was still making some pretty good saves. You mentioned it earlier that I heard, was Woodcroft hitting the panic button way too early in game one. Like, let guys figure this out. You have an experienced team. We've been talking about how – mature this team is. Let them sort things out and try to get things back on track, at least to a point to stop the bleeding. When your coach starts doing different things and you're switching goalies and throwing everything in the blender, man, that's creating your own chaos on the bench as well.
I don't know. I don't know if I buy into that, like that it was creating chaos. And the reason that I don't think is because you had to do something. Like I go to set plays where they were giving up chances. Like, you should never give up a scoring chance off the rush against when the other team is starting with the puck behind their net in like a set breakout. And that's what happened. Is like you had a set breakout and you had a complete and utter breakdown. Like, you should never, like Bouchard, have full control of a puck, make a decent move to spin off of a guy, and then go from being physically engaged to being about as soft as you can be, turning over a puck, and then have everyone scrambling. You should never engage. I sent you this. I didn't even send this one because I continue to melt down in the group text. I just sent it to Gager. And I was like, and I think it was goal number 3 on one of the Besser goals. And I was just like, look at everyone puck watching.
Oh, yeah.
Look at everyone like just staring at the puck the entire time. No one shoulder checking. No one looking to see where anyone was. Like, the team was not engaged. And so I don't fault Woodcroft because he saw his team not engaged. And I'm like, yeah, throw it in the blender, because aside from your one line, your third line with McLeod, is like you had nothing going. You had absolutely nothing going. And maybe not fair to Jack Campbell. I don't think the pull was fair to Jack Campbell, but to try to wake up something, because it was just they fell apart. They absolutely fell apart. And like mental mistakes again from set breakouts, from neutral zone regroups, areas where you shouldn't be giving up chances. They gave up horrible chances. There were some bad changes in there too, and so sorting out the rush against coming off the bench, like it was ugly.
Sounds like they weren't ready.
Nope.
Like it sure looked like they weren't ready. Like I don't look. Let's just get this out there, and then we'll. Like I asked Gazdick about this earlier today on the Nielsen show. Cass, did you ever start a season with an optional skate the day of the very first game of the year?
I don't think that's abnormal now.
For the first game of the year, though?
You've just been practicing. You had a whole bunch of practice days in front of this. It wasn't like you just had 3 days off. So I don't factor that in. Like,
I don't know. That's why I like asking you and Luke and Gage. To me, I'm like,
because you had, to me, it's like from a neurological, science-based standpoint, you don't need a morning skate. Now, some guys like them, some guys not as much. So I don't have a problem with the optional because you had like a week of practice ahead of time. Like you had a whole bunch of days to prepare and to get ready. So it should have been, just do what you have to do on the day of the game to be ready. And if it's not skate, it's not skate. So I don't have an issue with that. But yeah.
So how do you come out? How do you come out with a dud then? Last night, that's what I'm trying to figure out. Like they did not play well. McDavid wasn't good. Draisaitl wasn't good. Nurse and Bouchard, we could do 4 episodes on. I just don't know how you come out and look the way. Like if that's the new defensive system that they put in place and have been working on for the last month, I think you might have to go back to what worked down the stretch for you last year, Gager.
Well, we talked about this at about Game 5 last year, Cass, about pregame skates. And what you said actually makes sense to me a little bit. But I just think for the first game of the year, even if you get out there, you do 15 minutes, the coach grabs everyone, has the Braveheart speech to start the season. I think there's something to that to an extent. And would have made a difference. I don't know, but it's just, I find it odd to not have a pregame skate for the first game of the year when they've, if there's any time to have a full pregame skate, it was that
the
game.
first game of the year. Right.
Now going forward, maybe, okay, well, I was a little banged up or whatever, or we're just going to go over some video or something in the room. But man, it's puzzling. I understand it. But I just think it was more about just getting on the ice. It was a moment for the coaching staff to take to get things on to the right track.
I got a hypothesis on one of the reasons where they weren't prepared, and one of the things, because I thought this last night and I didn't think it until right now again. But
did you send it angrily to the texts?
No, I did not send it angrily to all the guys. No, not this one. But Vancouver played a very different game than Vancouver of last season. They played a Talkett style and upbeat physical style, and I wonder if the Edmonton Oilers' success in the first 5 minutes, now they didn't score, but they controlled the play, they got more chances, they looked pretty good the first couple minutes of the game. Vancouver maybe on their heels a little bit. And I wonder if Edmonton just kind of went into a mindset or a mentality of, we can just roll over these guys. And then all of a sudden, the Rick Tocchet style of gameplay, which is very different than Bruce Boudreau's style of gameplay, kicked in. And when the physicality all of a sudden went up, and we've seen Edmonton struggle with this in the past, especially on the forecheck, especially without Matthias Ekholm, when the forecheck is aggressive, when Edmonton's D-men aren't comfortable, they can struggle at times. And I wonder if they just mentally weren't prepared for the intensity and the pressure that the Vancouver Canucks brought. And that's a kudos, I think, to Rick Tocchet and that group to play that way and to bring that intensity. But I just wonder if they weren't prepared that way. And maybe they would have been more so with the morning skate. I don't know.
Well, Tommy, we had Ian McIntyre on.
Yeah, I listened. I was watching that last night.
And so he had mentioned how, and like you just said, Cass, so Dirty Bruce there wasn't accountability. Like even when the Stars made mistakes, they were thrown right back out there. There were the accountability level of the Vancouver Canucks wasn't where it was compared to now having Rick Tocchet, that you do have to play a certain way or you're going to be watching the game. And I think possibly that was the message that last 14 to 17 games of the year when the Canucks were winning a bit more. And obviously that's translated a little bit into this year as well. And I think we see a team that good teams, in my mind, it's tough to distinguish between line 1 and line 4 in the way they play. And that's what we saw. We saw Elias Pettersson just railroad Cody Ceci.
Yeah, that was a nice hit.
That was one of the, like that. There was an angle on Twitter that showed Ceci. It looked like he got like it was like a punch from a boxer. Like his whole body just went kaboom, blew him up. And when that's what I thought was going to happen when Connor finished that check. Like when you see your star players playing that physical brand of hockey, it brings everyone into the fight, and it just it had no effect, which is very it's one game. It's a little concerning. I'm not too concerned, but last night it just with your texts, Cass, like became more and more concerned as the game went on.
I love Meltdown Cass on text. It is one of my favorite Casses. This text to 780-218-9999. If you are listening live, we appreciate it. Tell your friends about all the content we're turning out here over at EdmontonSportsTalk.com. This text is in and says, I just felt that they backed into the habit if we don't score super early due to a hot goalie or frustrating defense, they stop trying when they give up 1 to 2 goals. Although, let's be honest, how many of you when Draisaitl scored were like, okay, like here it comes.
I felt that I was like, okay, like they still have there it is. And then they had a couple shifts where it was up, and then Bouchard takes a penalty and bye-bye. Like it just
the end of it there, yeah.
Yeah, you should have seen YouTube Trev when Draisaitl scored. He scared me.
Was he just so fired up?
Oh, I
love young
up.
YouTube Trev. Like he's just
Cass, wait till you get a load of YouTube Trev during
he said he couldn't sleep last night.
Oh, he was miserable this morning. He's smiling now. I got a smile out of him just before this. But it's nice to see the passion. And
I like having the hardcore fan around the office.
You have to.
Like that's really important, I think. Yeah. I think that's good. Okay, so there's a lot of other things to break down. You mentioned what I said earlier on my show today. And you guys can tell me like every game's important, I guess. But I hated the fact that 25 minutes into the season, McDavid and Draisaitl were back on the same line again. Like, to me, it's like, okay, this isn't working. Let's just throw those guys back together again. Like, if you're ever, like, then just play them together. Like, it drives me nuts that you'll start a season with, like, Connor Brown's brought in, and Brown and Kane and McDavid are going to be a thing. And then your team plays shitty defensively for 20 minutes, and you go, Connor and Leon back together again. I hate the message that it sends. Like, that should be saved for Game 6 against the Kings, and you roll it out there, or a big game against the like. To me, it's such a bad look that in Game 1 they had to go back to those guys, man. Like,
it's a crutch that lots of coaches have used.
Nobody's ever got past it.
No one, and it's even more prevalent in Woodcroft's distribution now.
Game 1.
But it wasn't the fact that they weren't scoring. They weren't playing defense. There was no physical play. So I don't know the reasoning to put them together at that point. I found it humorous that he put them together so early last night. But after hearing you this morning, don't say it made me mad. So I'll just let Cass talk about it.
I really lost it because to me it's just like it's Game 1. And it's the same thing again. When things don't go well, you don't allow your team, especially a new group. Like you got Brown mixed in here now. It's a different top 6. You don't. And I thought Brown was good last night. I liked Brown last night. But you don't let the group push their way through it as a group. You just go, hey, 97 and 29, go do something special. I could do that. You could do that. I don't know. It just to me, just to see that in Game 1, 25 minutes in, it's just like. What's going on here?
Yeah, I get the meltdown on that. I mean, I didn't melt down over it, but I get your point.
It's the same thing, right? Like it's the same thing as always.
Well, just the not letting them work through it in Game 1.
Yes.
Like it's not like this was Game 3 or Game 4 where you had a couple games and things didn't go well. Like this was Game 1. And you immediately smash that button, just like you should smash that subscribe button.
Give us that thumbs up as well. Yes,
give us a thumbs up, smash it. But that you can do at any time, and I suggest you do it right now. But unlike smashing that subscribe and like button, maybe a little bit too early on that. Wanting to try to let the guys work through it, especially since it wasn't. I mean, the forwards were involved in those goals against, especially in some of the reads in the way back. But it was still more of a D-man problem, I would say, the first couple. So, maybe a little bit too early. So I totally see where you're coming from, Dusty. Yeah. I'm not as mad about it as you are, because I get trying to, again, as I said earlier, I think you were trying to spark something because there wasn't much there, but I get it. I get why you're upset.
Like when have they ever tried to push through adversity without putting those two guys together? Name a moment.
Never.
When Woodcroft first came to the Oilers, he delayed implementing them for
That's when Derek Ryan said it's nice to have people with roles. And remember, everybody took that. They're like, yes, that's what Woodcroft's going to do.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, as a coach, when you have McDavid and Drysdale,
it's so hard.
Like,
Yeah.
But to me, let the group deal with adversity, especially earlier in the season, knowing that you can always go to those guys. It's like if you started 0-3 and you're playing the Philadelphia Flyers and you're down 3-1 in the third period, throw them together.
Yeah.
I mean, but in game one, it just makes me think, they still don't have any other strategy or plan when they face adversity, which to me is a major. That's the one thing that, well, no, it's not true. Nurse and Bouchard probably concerned me the most last night. But that one, just the strategy to go back to the guys so early, I was just like, well, here we go again, which was frustrating. Cass, what about Nurse and Bouchard? How much longer? Like, as soon as that comes back, do you just put Bouchard back with him?
Yeah.
You have to, right?
You have to. I get you're having to find some unique pairings with Ekholm out there, some different pairings, and you want to try Bouchard there. Overall, when I look at Bouchard's game, when I look at Nurse's game, it's not a pairing I want together.
No.
For me, and people have talked about, can they play together all year? I'm like, I don't think so. I don't necessarily want them together. To me, that Ekholm Bouchard pairing where they had success, that's the way to go. And I know people grumpy with Ceci at times. I still don't pin a lot of it on Cody Ceci. I pin it on Darnell Nurse. It's like, to me, that's your ideal pairing is Nurse Ceci, and then you have Ekholm with Bouchard. And I think last night to me was just kind of further cemented that idea that that's going to need to be the pairing in the future when Ekholm's healthy.
Why do you think they're trying to make it a thing? Like, I hope it's just Ekholm hasn't been available to play with Bouchard yet. So you put him with Nurse and see if maybe it clicks. It doesn't look like it. I know it was the 8th goal, but Bouchard just it was like Dakota Joshua just blew him aside. He's like, I'll just tap this in. And then, of course, Nurse is arriving 2 seconds late to the play. Like, I don't know why are you trying to make this a thing so they can both be on the ice with McDavid a lot? Because he usually like to run Nurse out there with McDavid a lot, right? So then you can get Bouchard out there with McDavid a lot and just try to create even more offense, because I don't understand what the priority is here of Nurse and Bouchard together. It's confusing me.
No, I hope it's just because Ekholm's injured. And, to be quite honest, I wanted to see it. I wanted to see it in preseason, but it just looks like they don't. There's just certain people that you don't play well with one another. The styles don't match. I mean that even the second goal, the Brock second goal where Bouchard
that was the shot.
He bails on the hit, and then turnover. Nurse gets caught 50-50ing it. It just, the lack of communication between the two. When you watch Ekholm play with Bouchard, he's like a traffic cop. He's
somebody texted into the show this morning and said, Dusty, they should have just had Ekholm dress, sit on the bench, and tell people where to go.
I mean, just put mics on him and let him talk. But that's when you see Ekholm, there is a lot of communication. That's the one thing I said. I didn't see any communication between those two. It's like they didn't say a word to each other while they're on the ice. And you can't play that way, especially with the speed of play. And
I think they both have the potential to be very good defensemen. Like, Nurse has proven that he can be a good defenseman in this league. Bouchard has proven that he can have moments so far. Like, he has not yet fully established himself as like that guy can handle top pairing minutes in the National Hockey League. But together, what are some good things that are delicious apart, but just not like ketchup and peanut butter? You're not going to put ketchup and peanut butter together, but they both can contribute significantly on their own. That's what that is to me. It might be a bad comparison, but it just kind of came up. That's how I kind of view it. And I don't know who would be the peanut butter and who would be the ketchup. But you're not going to put them together. That doesn't make any sense. This text comes in 780-218-9999, 780-218-9999. Guys, with the addition of Kane and Hyman, I thought that was the end of 97 and 29 being the crutch. Nope. Now with Brown and having a top six that all makes sense, I truly believe that putting those two together should be a fireable offense. 97 and 29 should be break glass only strategy. Imagine today if Jeff Jackson comes out and says, we told Woody, you can't put 97 and 29 together. He's out of here.
Well, like you said, everyone wants to feel part of the game, wants to be responsible. And, I mean, it's just one game, but it was a little troubling to see that they went to that a little bit early. You're adding fuel to my fire with this, Dustin. You got to stop talking about this.
Well, you know what's going to happen is, they're not practicing today. I don't know. Cass, there's
mandatory days off. You have mandatory days off. They have to find days where it makes sense. And for this one, I think you have 2 days in between, so you can squeeze one in.
And they have the autograph session tonight. So,
yep.
But does that work? Does that count as a work day? This team autograph session tonight?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so. I'm not 100% sure, but I don't believe it does.
Oh, well. They'll end up working hard as today as they did yesterday. So
yeah.
I think that's probably how you look at it. Tails over on the Nasty Chat on YouTube. They weren't this bad before Ekholm arrived, though. However, they did have Tyson Barrie as a veteran defense. And now I know Tyson Barrie had his warts. I'm not going to sit here and try to compare him to Ekholm, but that was another body that they could have used. Like Broberg's not a penalty killer. I think we learned that last night.
Yeah.
That's probably not going to happen. I don't know. It is just one game, but is it more than one game when it happens that way, or do we still just have to view it as just one game? Like,
very odd, because I was trying to go into the Rolodex of first games that I played and think of a game where we just sucked, like to a man. Everyone wasn't at their best. Maybe you had a few guys that didn't play at the level that you expected, but completely through the lineup. And Cass, like those types of games, they happen. But usually not within the first 10 games of the season. You're looking more, closer to Christmas, maybe a little bit after, where everyone just has a stinker and coach comes in and just says, throw it in the garbage. We play again in a day or two. Forget about this one, right? So
yeah, the flush it games, but I don't know if I ever had one game won. I don't think I did.
No,
because usually you're so amped up, like to actually play a game that counts. So it's like everyone's energy level is pretty high. Motivation is high, excitement is high, and you play with some energy, where it's just kind of like, they didn't have much of that. First 5 minutes they got scored on, and it just kind of went out the window.
I've had entertaining games where I was part of the entertainment, where we, it was either a 7-8, 8-9 kind of first game, but it was a good game. They, like, everyone was engaged or something like that. But that's odd to me, coming out and playing like that the first game. I wonder, we were talking about it before, just that whole, getting here early, hearing nothing but good things for the past month, and Stanley Cup aspirations at the end of this thing. And maybe it's a good dose of humble pie for the Oilers to go, oh my gosh, we got to realize we cannot just throw our sticks out there and expect to win hockey games. We're going to get every team's best effort every night. So, yes, if you don't play your best against the Oilers, things can go quite wrong for you. But on the other side of that, same thing for the Oilers. You're going to get guys going that extra bit to avoid being embarrassed by the talent that the Oilers possess. So maybe it's a good early lesson for them to realize that, look, this is we have to start preparing for game 83, and not off to the best start. But again, maybe a good lesson learned early.
Jay Woodcroft was speaking this morning. If you want to chime in on that, we'll get to a couple of those. He was speaking at 12:15, so we've been on the air since. Let us know if anything of significance happened there. Nurse and Bouchard aren't strong enough defensively to play together. Bouchard needs to stay glued to Ekholm right now. And I'm going to use a comparison that the three of us, I think, will like, Ekholm is Obi-Wan Kenobi. And Bouchard is a young Anakin Skywalker. And what happened?
But that didn't turn out good, though.
Exactly. That's what I'm worried about. If Anakin doesn't stay with Obi-Wan long enough, he turns to the dark side. And I don't want Bouchard to end up on the dark side in this situation. Like, if Anakin would have stayed with Obi-Wan and wouldn't have been, pushing back so much against it, if he would have stayed there, the entire storyline would have been different. Good comparison and bad comparison. I think it's an okay comparison because Bouchard's not ready to be a significant contributor reliably without Ekholm by his side. He's just not.
No. He hasn't shown me anything from the preseason. Definitely last night. That was a tough outing for Bouchard. His recognition looked exactly like it did a few years ago, where it seemed like the play was just too quick for him. He does have that nonchalant style a little bit that sometimes makes it look worse than it actually is, but I like the comparison, Dusty. Not to, if he goes to the dark side, what does that actually mean? Does he go to another team and be really good for a while and then and then goes into the pooper? But I don't know if this is going to work. But the thing is that it should work. These two guys are highly talented defensemen in the NHL. There's no reason why it shouldn't work. Like, they should dominate out there with the way that they
Bouchard, Nurse?
Yes.
No, they're not good enough defensively.
I know, but
they're not defensive. Neither of them shines defensively. Like, they both.
One of them has to be one of those guys would have to be capable defensively for it to work.
They both are offensive minded.
What?
And have some great offensive abilities. Neither one of them is like, no, at my core, I'm a defensive defenseman. For both of them,
which
is
what Nurse should be alongside Bouchard.
Yes.
Nurse should be like, you know what? I'm gonna lock this. Lock this down.
No one's getting a chance.
But he doesn't. Right? It's
that's not his primary game.
Yeah.
I don't fault him for that because that's not his primary game. I mean, Darnell Nurse at his best is being aggressive defensively, but also aggressive offensively, like in jumping to the rush and creating chances. And it's kind of like you're hoping that two negatives make a positive. I mean, in the defensive zone, I mean, that to me is kind of what you're hoping. You're like, oh, let's see if we put these two similar players together, if one of them will all of a sudden start to have that defensive ability or defensive bent to it. And I just don't see it happening. Now, it's possible that it happens, guys. It's possible, but I think it less likely.
I don't think you got the leash on it to make it possible. I don't think you ride this thing out for 6 weeks being like, we still think it's going to work defensively.
Wow. What happens if Ekholm's not ready by Saturday? Do we see it again?
I think you put Ekholm on the bench and tell everybody where to go. They come off, he goes, here's what you're going to do next shift. I got to get to this text. I think it comes out of Calgary or somewhere, 403 area code. And this is, adding text and live messages to two guys in a goalie here is great. If Ekholm is Obi-Wan Kenobi, then Nurse is Jar Jar Binks.
Oh, my God. Misa bad defensively.
Misa has some problems. And he kind of like Gungan walking around the defensive zone. Yeah.
But even Jar Jar got things right. It just looked bad.
Oh, that's a tough one. But it's a tough night. They were combined -5 last night. I mean, I don't know what you're supposed to do in that situation. Hey, I think some people were falling off on Woodcroft availability earlier today. It wasn't a day off. They had team meetings today instead of practicing. Does that change your thought process on this at all, Cass? Came together as a group. I guess Woodcroft said, the text comes in and says, boys, no day off for the Oilers today. The guys had a team meeting this morning about effort and compete.
Well, I mean, you could have done that meeting on the ice. That's a little surprising if it wasn't a day off.
That's what a pregame skate's for. Yeah, but you could have had that chat before you head on, or even on the ice, right? Gather them at the board and be like,
had it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a little surprising then.
That is really surprising.
It's a strange start to the year.
Well, we're really nitpicking here, but even the fact that Woodcroft's not announcing his goalie like until game time and things like
That
that.
might have just been for the start or for the first game. Do you think? Or is
I don't know. Like it's all hush hush and I don't know. I hope he's got to be telling his goalies before, like at least a day before.
Oh, the goalies know. The goalies
know.
have.
They have to
know.
know. So
they have to know.
I mean, he's probably got a plan. Like this is what Tommy and I were talking about because of such a poor performance.
Yeah.
Is that game 9 of the preseason and the regular season's 81 games and just go forget it and we just try this again? Like
we started our show today by saying this is what happens when you only let them play 8 preseason games, right? Just not ready. Needed a little bit more time. To the person who texted in that Ekholm is Obi-Wan and then Nurse is Jar Jar, we need more of you. That's the first text that they've sent in here to EdmontonSportsTalk.com, just so you know. Your sense of humor is appreciated. Big Uke over on the Nasty Chat says, Holloway is expected to play on Saturday.
Oh, good.
So I guess Woodcroft would have passed that along today as well. This is great. Usually it's us passing along information to the listeners, but now that they can check out Woodcroft while we were on the air today, they're passing things along to us as well. This one is in. It says, are you guys worried that Bouchard will be nothing more than a power play specialist as opposed to a number 2 to 3 D-man?
Like, no, I still think he can get there. Don't you guys? Like,
I've never viewed him as a number 1.
That number 2,
like,
no, I still wonder on that number 2. Like, to me, it's like I think he's a 3-4 guy, which is good. You need 3-4.
Is he just Tyson Barrie?
yes,
Right?
Potentially better Tyson Barrie. I think there's more upside there because he's got the offensive potential, and the potential on the defensive side is there. He's just, whatever he has to see, a chiropractor, strength trainer to work on his grip strength so he can hold the railing when he's walking down the stairs, whatever it is, like Grandpa Bouch needs to, and that's the tough thing is like, he just needs to get a little bit more. I don't mind the nonchalant in that guys don't get phased by things, but just using that puck battle in the corner when he gets stripped of it leads to goals. Like, well, if he wants to be a number 2 defenseman, he's got to learn how to play in those situations on the ice, and he just hasn't yet, and that's going to be a tough thing to coach into him. So I still think I think he's a 3-4. Not I don't know if he's ever going to be a 1
specialist.
PP specialist, the 3-4 PP specialist. Yeah,
get this man his Jello too, because he obviously didn't get it last night.
We get to hit on a couple other things around league as well, but let's see anything else on this game. They switched up. They put McDavid and Draisaitl back together. Nurse Bouchard didn't work. Deharnais had a nice scrap. Cass, what do you think of the Deharnais scrap? He muted. Oh. Man, you almost went the full show without muting.
Almost went. I think the scrap was fine. The scrap was fine.
What about his game?
His game was fine. Yeah. He's one of the only guys that wasn't dash, I think.
Yeah, he was even on the blue line, yeah.
But here's the tough, and this is really, really tough. So this is nitpicky on this. And I will say it, this is nitpicky just because it got spanked. Is part of me wonders if that fight woke up Vancouver a little bit.
Ooh.
Timing-wise.
It did change the tide.
It changed the feel of the game a little bit. And that's not, you engage with a guy, you're a big guy, physical guy, you're going to get in fights sometimes. Joseph's not a little guy. You're sparring with him in front of the net, and you do that. And I typically have an issue with that, but and that's where I'm saying I'm being a little nitpicky with it. But I'm like, you had the mo as the Oilers. Like, you had a little bit of the momentum, you had a little bit more juice, and it was part of, I think, the feeding into Vancouver waking up and snapping. Not that they were in a funk.
Interesting
not that they were
theory.
Totally asleep.
Yeah.
But I just wonder if that contributed to it.
I'd like to go back and watch that again now and look at the reactions on the bench, because Cass, sometimes there's a scrap with a guy that maybe smaller in stature taking on a tougher guy and does well. Watch the benches, because you'll see the one bench jump up like they scored a goal, and the other guys kind of saunter up and tap the boards. I wonder. That's. Well,
I was wondering why it happened in the first place. I thought it was Joshua who had that hit in the corner on the replay.
Yeah.
Remember that the replay, they went to 3 sequences, and it started with a hit in the corner, and then it went to something else, and then it showed them kind of getting to center ice and Deharnais kind of going after. So I rewound it. I was like, wait, because I think it was a hit on Draisaitl in the corner. I was like, oh, was it Joshua who hit Draisaitl in the corner, and then Deharnais kind of went over and said something? But they were just sort of sparring in front of the net and then worked their way up the ice and decided to drop the gloves. So I was a little confused by the timing of it all. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't realize why that happened either. That's interesting.
It was just the shoving in front of the net, and Deharnais didn't like it. I thought that's it, and he was the one that instigated it, as it were. Like he wanted to go, and probably first game of the season, wanted to have an impact, wanted to make a statement, and I get that. Again, I don't know about the timing of it. I question if it was necessary, and I question if it had a little bit to do with that momentum change, fellas.
Gage, you ever puked in your mask?
No, but felt like it sometimes. I'm sure some fans would have liked to have done it.
They would have loved to have puked on your mask.
Yeah, no, never did. Felt sick. Cramped up, never puked.
Yeah. That's kind of gross.
That is real gross.
Yeah.
And then, well, you heard Connor.
I puked in a mascot mask one time.
Oh, my gosh.
That was it. Yeah.
There's nothing like
that. Was a
puking.
hot day. That was gross.
That's disgusting.
Yeah. Cass, you ever puke anywhere on the ice?
Nope, wasn't a puker. Even bag skates, some of the worst ones. I just wasn't. Never puked.
Who
on
are
the
you,
ice.
Jerry Seinfeld? You don't puke? Like
I puked. I puked before the game. I went through a period in junior where I was just getting really antsy before games and like would heave a couple times, sometimes puke.
Is that a junior when you had to go out and fight every single night, basically?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So I had some of those moments, but never on the ice. Nope.
I actually puked last weekend for the first time, not because of alcohol. I ate one of those.
What do you mean for the first time?
The only time I've
You've never got like the flu and puked?
No, it's always because I'm hungover.
What'd you eat?
Who knows? I couldn't tell at that point.
Gage, I've been meaning to talk with you about this. Like, it's becoming a bit of a problem because you know.
But the puking with the booze?
No, I didn't. I said
maybe you know what it is he's trying. Dusty, I figured it out. It's when he has the flu, he's trying to burn it out with like whiskey.
Oh, it makes sense.
That's the issue. Maybe, but I ate one of those like one chip challenge things. Those things with like 4 billion.
So that's why you puked.
That's why I puked.
So when I asked you why'd you puke, you said I don't know why.
Oh, I thought
you ate one of those.
Before.
No. I meant okay.
No,
listen.
it was because of.
Why'd you do that?
I went to my buddy's place and he had this little.
You're trying to be cool. Peer pressure.
It was. I realized it when I saw that thing. I realized this was a really bad idea. But yeah, that's terrible. What a horrible.
Does that hit right away? That thing? Like,
no, I drank some Pepto before just to try to coat the stomach.
You pre-coated your stomach.
Yeah.
Veteran move.
It was. I'll never that, and I like I'm like George. I like everything chicken spicy and things, but that I'll never do that again.
A couple of comments on this Deharnais fight, and now I guess it does kind of ring a little bit of a bell, but maybe a different spot to pick it. But apparently Bob Stauffer, future Nielsen show guest, he said last night on 6:30 CHED that the fight was a follow-up from the preseason, and then Dennis says, yeah, Joshua was running guys in some of the preseason matchups. So is that, I guess, if we're justifying with that, Cass, is that the time to get that thing done?
Well, you have an opportunity, and maybe you're trying to grab him for that, and you're fresh enough, and he's right there, puck's out of the zone.
You could have saved it and then done it when it was 6-1.
Yeah,
if it ended up being that way, still, right? Like,
yeah. So that adds again. I will say that's me being really nitpicky about it because it's like and for his style of game, I don't really have a problem with it. It was just a curiosity because I wondered that when it happened. I was kind of like, it's kind of interesting timing, and it makes sense. Like if there's preseason stuff that maybe I didn't see with him, where he's trying to answer the bell with it, and I get that, and I don't want that out of his game, and if we're faulting this loss, I'm not faulting it on Vinny Deharnais getting in a fight. Not at all. There's a lot worse things going on.
This text in 780-218-9999. Woodcroft has been cagey with announcing lineups, including goalies, hasn't he? That part doesn't surprise me. The 97-29 panic move was really disappointing. If Holloway's good to go on Saturday, that's good news. That line was pretty much the biggest positive from last night. That one in from Library Pat. Gager must be related to Jackie Moon. Punch him in the jejunum. Wasn't that what that was? That's a good text. This text comes in from Dardar Ninks. 3 of the 7 D-men have under 100 NHL career games. Why is this not talked about more? Cup teams don't have that. You know what? If you actually go back and look at Stanley Cup rosters, I think you could probably, now with that being said, if they play the full season, if it's a rookie plays the full season, he's going to be like at 82 games anyway. So, but if the Oilers get there, these guys will probably have more experience than the 100 games. But you don't see a lot of teams win the Stanley Cup with 2 or 3 relatively youngish guys on the back end.
But you throw an Ekholm and it looks dramatically different.
Yeah, that's true.
In terms of games played, like all of a sudden it's you have 2 guys maybe that are dressing that have less, and that it's like your third pairing. So you're kind of going, okay, like, yeah, I'd have to look. That's an interesting comment. You'd have to check to see games played when they won the cup for some of those other guys. Yeah, for some of those other teams.
Yeah, that'd be interesting to go back like 5 years and see the Stanley Cup winner and see total games played.
Yeah. Guys, keep crushing it. So glad you're all back. Hard week here, a heavy day ahead. Glad to be listening and seeing you amazing people. Oh, that's a really nice message. Wow. Thank you for that. Dacky says, you got to face some adversity on the road to win the cup. Vancouver may have poked the bear with this one. Saturday is going to be a different game. They did take the foot off the gas with the power plays late. They weren't running, like later in the game, they weren't running out the Pedersen unit.
Yeah, and that's what puzzled me was when McDavid, like they said, they were doing something, throwing out PP1 at 6-1, and he goes, yeah, he didn't like that, but it's 7 and 8. They were throwing out guys that'll never touch the power play later, and he did mention the goalie leaving and putting in the backup with 10 minutes, but there were valid reasons for that. Actually, at 6-1, throwing out your number 1 power play against the Oilers, and the Canucks with that history of last season giving up those big leads, I think it was kind of still thinking the Oilers had the ability to come back in that game and trying to really seal it with another goal. I didn't find that all those guys are former players. They know we're winning this game. We don't want it. We're playing these guys in the next few nights. I didn't see any of that kind of gamesmanship throwing out your top guys at that point. I know that was mentioned. I didn't think
that was the thing.
I don't know. And you're early in the season. Like if this was, if there was 10 games left in the season, then you kind of go, well, I don't know, unless you're trying to get like a guy to like 40 goals or like hit a milestone or something. But for this, it's like, no, it's early in the season.
Getting reps still themselves, right? Like,
you're getting reps still. You're still trying to establish yourself, trying to build confidence, and you have the opportunity to do so against a team that isn't playing well. So go for it. I mean, I don't have any problem with that.
Cass, what do you think of Austin Matthews scoring 3 goals last night?
Guy can score. Hey, he's one of the best goal scorers in the league. So yeah, he scored.
That was a hell of a game.
Scored 3 goals.
Did you watch that game?
It was a great game.
I watched. I was on my way here, so I missed part of it and then didn't watch it. But I liked that. That game is always awesome. Habs, Leafs. First game, there's always fireworks. I think last year they went to the shootout too. Austin Matthews, horrible move in the shootout, by the way. So even though he had 3 goals, that was terrible.
Yeah, when he tried to go short side, kind of hit the blocker. Yeah,
hit the blocker. But
Marner had a nice finish though.
Great.
Allen
finish.
gave him a ton of room up top,
but no, I mean, I'll always watch those games because no matter where their positioning is in the standings. It's always a good game.
You know what I like last night? Cass, I'll get your thoughts on this. The Leafs bring in Ryan Reeves to add to the bulliness, and then Jack Eye actually kind of gives him the goods. I thought that was kind of a big moment for the Habs youngster to sort of be like, actually, guess what? You're not going to run the division here. I thought that was not that anybody runs divisions anymore in the National Hockey League like it used to be back in the day, but I kind of thought that was in 2023 hockey, like a semi-important moment for the Habs and Leafs last night.
Well, I liked it for both teams. Because, and the reason I did is I like it for Toronto because, in the past and in the playoffs, they've had, I wouldn't say a history of getting pushed around a little bit, but they've been questions about that and about team toughness. And so to have him to go out to try to assert and to say, hey, we can do this. We can try to play this way. We have another element to our game. I liked it. And then from the Canadian side, it's like, well, no, we're going to stand up to this and we're going to push back at this. So, I mean, I think there was good things for both teams about that in that, and that you had a group that maybe has struggled with that element, bring that element. And then you had a group that said, no, we're going to push back at this too. So, I mean, I kind of liked it. And I always like that type of stuff.
I was dabbling in the Flames Jets last night too. Markstrom was good.
Really good.
Markstrom was really good last night.
Except for the Connor goal.
That one snuck through, but I had that on a 3-man parlay at plus 920 that I ended up hitting. So that was really important for me last night. So I was okay with that. But I thought he was number one reason that the Calgary Flames won that hockey game last night. Like Winnipeg actually looked pretty good last night.
But that was an enjoyable game. Yeah. Watching some of the highlights of that. Markstrom looks like Markstrom of 2 years ago. So look out if
Markstrom's dialed in, Calgary's a different team.
Yeah, very, very different team.
Did you guys see? So Bouchard scores his first goal last night on a wraparound. It was a nice goal.
Very nice.
It was a nice goal. I don't know. So I saw the graphic, Wayne Gretzky at 896, whatever it is, and then Connor Bedard won. And then I listened to the call of the first goal, and it's like, Connor Bedard scores first of 1,000.
Oh,
and I was like, holy smokes, like, let's pump the brakes on this poor kid right now. And I don't know if he said it in jest, but it didn't come across like it was some sort of bit that they were doing. Like, I think Chicago is viewing this as like one of the top 3-4 greatest players of all time, which is probably a little early 2 games in to be saying that. But I don't know if he's going to score 1,000 goals, Cass. I don't want to be a downer here, but I just don't know if it happens.
So. This would be a downer. I don't think he does. But I'm glad they're excited.
Yeah, they are excited.
I'm glad he scored. Yeah. And I'm glad he's another really great player that we get to watch. So it's, I don't know. I take that one in a little grain of salt with it, but just the emotion of the moment. But yeah, he's probably not scoring 1,000. No, let's be realistic.
It's going to take, I'd say, between 20 and 30 games for him to figure out what makes him successful. I watched that full first game with him, and there was a lot of moments where he was dominated physically. Yeah, and I just think it's one of those. He's not used to it.
You said that, Cass. You said that, Cass. You called that like midway through last season. Like,
he's not getting any heavier. And if you look, even after he scored that first goal, one of my thoughts after that first goal, when he was in the pile and everyone's celebrating with him, I'm like, oh, he's really little.
He's shifty, though.
He's not going to have success. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. That doesn't mean he's not going to have success. It doesn't. I mean, it's not. I don't think it's nearly the challenge that it was 10 to 15 years ago in playing in the league. But there were moments when it's like, yeah, no, he's not playing against boys anymore. Yeah. He's not playing against kids anymore. And that's going to be a challenge at times for him. And we'll have to see how much. Again, I think he's going to be a really good player. I just wonder if, well, I mean, I think the 1,000 goal comment a little.
That was a little too. I've said some really stupid things doing play-by-play. I think saying first of 1,000. I mean, first of the career probably would have been the call.
You can't say like what, first of 800. Like first of 500, first first of 1,000 sounds really good.
First of many.
Yeah, first of many. Yeah, that would have been good. His first career goal, first of many for Connor Bedard. Like, that was. I
do like his willingness to shoot.
He likes to shoot the puck.
He was a little bit of a shin pad assassin there for a while, but I mean, again, this is going to be him figuring stuff.
Before just a couple of quick things before we wrap. People have been asking like, what's the bounce back like on Saturday here? They had team meeting today. There'll probably be a practice tomorrow. I know if there isn't a bounce back, they're not going to get pumped again. But if they were to lose to the Canucks at home on Saturday night, the city will be in a full-blown 0-2 meltdown. But what are you expecting from the? And Cass, are you doing post game on Saturday? Pre and post?
I am back.
Okay, he's back. Okay,
pre and post on Saturday.
All right. So, Gager, what do you think happens?
Throughout the whole lineup, way more physicality. There's going to be a distinct shift in that aspect of the game. I look for a sounder defensive structured game where they're limiting the chances and not giving them anything. Like that's where it all has to start. They can't go to we got to score 9 goals to win this thing. Yeah. Like that.
You don't think they win 6-4 on Saturday?
If they do, I'll be very, even if they win 6-4, 7-5, I'll be upset, Dusty, to tell you the truth. This is not like last year. It's weird because I'm a goalie. I get caught up in Connor and Leon and getting all these points. And can they get past a structured defensive team because they're so brilliant offensively? The answer to that is no, they can't. They have to change their style of play to a style that wins when it matters most. They can't outscore their problems anymore because that works in the regular season.
Well, yeah, they can in the regular season.
But and it's not a switch that you turn in April. This has to be established now. And that's what I want to see from the Edmonton Oilers. To be a successful team in the playoffs, their attention to detail on the defensive side of the puck has to change.
Cass, what do you think happens?
7-1 Edmonton.
Coach C on the nasty chat says Oilers win 10-4 on Saturday as well. Okay, quickly, did you guys watch Loki yet?
No.
Did you guys not like Loki?
Nope, I was watching hockey. No, I love Loki, but I was.
Weren't you on a plane though? You could have watched on a plane. You could have watched Loki on a plane.
Dude, I'm flying on a plane. I had my family.
Oh,
with
you had
me,
the kid.
so
okay, never mind. Then that's impossible.
Yeah, I wasn't just by myself on that one. So
yeah. All right.
I'll get her done.
Well, then I guess 2 guys and a goalie's over for today. Mind you, I still haven't finished Ahsoka. It's on the list. I know I'm about probably a third of the way through the final episode. So good. How was it with Marc Majot today?
I guess I'm joining his podcast for Dune when it finally comes out. So
really?
I'm a huge Dune guy.
That'll be a good one.
So
wow.
I'm big into the Kwisatz Haderach.
What's that mean? I haven't watched Dune. I haven't watched it. Like I don't know anything. Nothing about Dune.
It's the chosen one.
Is it kind of like Waterworld, but on sand the whole time?
No, it's really good. It's really, really good. Now, with that being said, if we're talking about the books, the first one was really good, and then it kind of falls off, in my opinion, after that.
The second one, I lost it. Yeah, terrible.
Yeah, but the first one, so good.
I listened to the audiobook at night to go to sleep.
Yeah. Absolute classic. And the latest movie was fantastic, too. So.
All right, Cass, you get back to work, buddy. Gager, thanks for popping by. That's going to do it for another full day here at EdmontonSportsTalk.com. We'll be back tomorrow morning on the Nielson Show bright and early at 6 o'clock. Nielson Show replay coming up, actually, right now, if you're listening to the live stream. If you want to be entertained this afternoon with a little sports talk, got you covered right here at EdmontonSportsTalk.com. We will talk to you tomorrow.